You might think that I've been invited to come here and introduce this wonderful weekend because I went to the Olympics. Wrong. It's how I went to the Olympics that's interesting, and how much holism went into my efforts with my horses to get to the Olympics, and how much that helped my performances. That's really important to us today. It isn't the end result, it isn't the performance, it's the effort to bring every aspect into my horse housekeeping, my horsekeeping, that made a difference. But before I launch into what holism is, because we're going to have a little quiz at the start, get you thinking, I'd like to say congratulations to all of you for being here, and to Yanni and Colleen for thinking this up and then actually driving it through, and for putting it into an economic business model that might actually fly, so they can continue this thing without exhausting themselves and bring their knowledge and other people's knowledge to holistic horse keepers all over the country. So congratulations to all of you. Give yourselves a clap. And especially Yanni and Colleen. Now, what is this business about holism? Does anybody want to give me your definition of holism? I think we need to start with the basics. Your definition of holism. Anybody got a definition?
I suppose looking at the whole aspect of horse care, not just one aspect such as technique, riding technique, but horse feed, nutrition, massage, that kind of stuff.
Would anybody dispute that definition?
No,
that's perfect,
add
isn't
to
it?
that.
Oh, add to it, please,
Yeah.
please.
So-
It's a yes and answer. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear. Go.
Okay, so that's the physical aspects.
Yeah.
There's the connection. There's that mental connection.
Yeah.
with you,
Can
right?
everyone hear this answer?
Yep.
Yep. Good.
So it's just that psychological aspect, I suppose.
Perfect. Anybody else want to add a yes and? Yeah.
Again, adding more as well as mental, but physically for the human as well as the horse to be able to convey it.
Perfect. So it's not just the horse, but there's actually a whole of you and your horse, isn't there? And there's another whole of you and your horse and your vet, or you and your horse and your therapist. Okay, that's excellent. I love that addition. Anybody else want to add?
Probably just a balance too, for the horse's sake,
Yeah.
not just one thing.
Yeah.
But to balance everything out.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And obviously the spiritual aspect as well, too, to grow inside and,
And horses are people too, aren't they? They have exactly the same needs we do. They don't quite think the same way we do. They have a lot of emotions, not quite the same range that we have, but they have a spiritual aspect as well. In my view, there's no question about that. But can anybody tell me where in history holism first came up? Anybody got a thought about that? Oh, I could depend on Sarah for this. Up the back, naughty girl.
Aristotle?
Aristotle. How long ago was he on the planet?
2,500 years ago?
Here's someone who knows her history, and what did he have to say about holism?
something like the whole is more than the sum of the parts.
I think the quote is, and I don't speak Greek, and I certainly don't speak ancient Greek, so I haven't translated this, but the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Does that make sense to all of us? Because that encompasses everything that every one of you has said, doesn't it? The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Why would anybody have deviated from such a beautiful precept 2,500 years ago? Why haven't we just kept on to that wisdom? Why are we here even talking about holism when it seems so obvious that that's the answer?
Humans are greedy. Humans want to win. Humans, it's that human need to win or be good at something that drives them away from those concepts.
I think that's a good answer. We're out of balance a little bit, aren't we? So who else has a yes and answer add on to this?
No, clarifying with Ron something like our humans' power of love of power overrode the power of really our, in a way, deeper core and our humanity in a way overrode, and we wanted more than what we...
You could say that our love of power overcame the power of love, to put it really briefly, couldn't you? So when did we really historically, because we started out with 2,500 years ago, that was pretty wise 2,500 years ago, wasn't it? We started 2,500 years ago. Where did we take a bit of a wrong turning or a right turning that went wrong? Anybody think of, does anybody know when the Enlightenment happened and what the significance was? Yeah.
The Enlightenment was,
Yeah, go ahead.
about the 1800s in Europe.
Yep.
The sort of the influence, the importance of reason over emotion, and giving a systematic sort of understanding of the natural world.
Did everybody hear that? The Enlightenment actually happened in the 17th and 18th century, started with 17th century philosophers. Why do we care? Why should we care that Aristotle had holism 2,500 years ago and 400 years ago or so the Enlightenment happened? Why should we care? What have we got today that the Enlightenment gave us?
It's a science.
Yeah, what did it give us?
You've got to,
A systematic understanding of the world.
Perfect. What else? What else did it give us? What did the Enlightenment give us? Look around you. What else did it give us? Everything you're looking at, except the trees, isn't it? Every artifact, aside from a stone axe or a brick building, a stone building, has been created by the Enlightenment. It doesn't matter if you're talking about something as fancy as that or just the chair you're sitting on. That was all that scientific, rational understanding that a human being can manipulate the world. We're back to love of power, forgetting the power of love, aren't we? So where did that go wrong? Because that was great. What a great idea that we actually could manipulate the world and have the world more the way we wanted it. What went wrong? No, you're not going to say. You've had too many bright answers already. We're going to start with someone else. You got it all. Who else can say? What went wrong? What went wrong?
We had the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah?
We had a range of other social movements around the equality of women.
Yeah.
And the suffragette movement.
Yeah.
So there's a whole range of other social movements that are taking place right across the world. And then, of course, with exploration and expansion, the rise and fall of empires, led by generally most males.
Yeah, okay. That's one aspect. No. That is one aspect, one real aspect. But if we look at the flow of history, let's just, do you want to give your answer now? No one else seems to be popping up. Yeah, before I say mine.
Well, I was just going to pretty much
Say the same thing. Yeah, good. Okay. Well, let's just think about the way that we sometimes do things. You know, you start to learn something and you sort of go off on a tangent and go into it too much, and then pretty soon you find you're unbalanced and you've lost your balance, or then you say, no, that wasn't right, you go the other direction, you're unbalanced the other way. Well, what happened to all this wonderful science and rationality? Where did it go? It turned into scientism and material reductionism. Now material reductionism, that's a bit of a tough word to use. Anybody know what material reductionism is? It's looking at the tiniest bit and thinking that that's the most important thing to look at and forgetting that it's connected to everything else. Does that make sense? So it wasn't so much the science, it wasn't the rationality, it wasn't necessarily the fact that the men were leading the band, it wasn't necessarily any one of those aspects, it was that male-dominated power came to be command and control. Every system was about command and control and hierarchy. Now, if we look back at history, when did hierarchy get invented? That was also a great idea. It didn't lead to iPads. But what did hierarchy lead to? When was it invented? About 8,000 years ago? What was it good for?
Survival.
Better than that, people were surviving before that. Bows and arrows and slings and bits and pieces they could kick. What was it good for? Huh?
agriculture and learning.
It actually came out of agriculture. It was good for building pyramids and running armies. It's still good for building pyramids and running armies. How many of you build pyramids? How many of you are working in an army? Right. We don't actually need that anymore, and we're still using it. So lots of things get held over and exaggerated, and what I'm saying is that rationalism and science became material reductionism and scientism, and that's what I rebelled against. So now I'm going to go into my story and why I think that I'm here really. In the 70s, this is the 1970s, I came to Australia in 1970. That was a pretty odd thing to do for a Yank in those days, and settled here. So I started learning every form of human alternative therapy. Why did I learn human alternative therapy when I was interested in horses? Somebody tell me. Why didn't I go straight to equine therapies?
To fix yourself before you started working.
Yeah, okay, that's one answer. Actually, you're too young to realize what the 70s were like. You have a lot of doors open to you that were firmly slammed shut in those days. Why did I go for human therapies? Because there weren't any equine alternative therapies. I had to learn acupuncture, Bowen, many forms of massage. I learned homeopathy. I went into biotoxicology. I went into all kinds of weird stuff. Energy healing. Why did I do it in a human form and then transform it to horses? Sort of transmogrify it? Nobody was thinking about using this stuff on horses. Nobody even thought of it. I did. I was determined I was going to have a more holistic approach to my horse's health. Now, long story short, one of the reasons that I got to the Olympics was because I had an advantage that other people didn't have. I was able to keep my horses in top performing order because I didn't only depend on vets. Now, did I hate vets? Did I not use vets? Did I shun vets? No, I worked with the best vets in Europe, with the best vets in Australia. But I was pretty picky about my vets. And sometimes I worked with ones who were highly material reductionist, very medical model, because they were the best in their field. But most of the time I picked vets, I think we have a vet coming now, who had a more holistic view of how you treat a horse and how a horse is a whole. That it's actually a biosocial, physical being. What does that mean? It has a mind, a body, and a spirit. Does that make sense? So that became an advantage. The very eccentricity that I showed in international horse shows, standing on my head or sitting in a lotus position meditating in the aisles of international competition stables, and I can tell you, in the 80s, that was viewed as pretty bloody eccentric. That was weird. But they all knew I tried hard, and they admired people who tried hard. And they all knew I had the best horse, one of the best horses in the world, and they admire having a good horse. And they all knew I'd found the best trainer and discovered him. So, I put all these different things together, and I ended up going to the Olympics where people who were a lot richer, probably spent more time in the saddle, had a lot better, longer histories. I was the least trained person there on the youngest horse. But why did I manage to perform? And why did I manage to have a satisfying experience with a lot of my horses? Because I took that holistic path. Now, I'm going to ask you, what are you doing here this weekend? Learning. Okay, that's great. But you're also teaching because you all know something, don't you? So some doors that are going to be wide open on this weekend, some of you already have those doors half open. Some of you will find that the doors are opening for you. I want to urge you to really take advantage of all that's being offered. Be skeptical about it. Don't just say, this is great stuff, I'm grabbing that, I'm going to go for it. Be a little rational. You don't have to be a scientismist to be scientific. You don't have to be a rational reductionist to actually think rationally. Does that make sense? Put it all together. That's holism. Use your intuition. Use your rational mind. You've got one. You've got a great big giant one. Use it. Be discriminating about the information you get. Ask a lot of questions. Engage with the material. I think that's all I need to say.